afternoon, good evening, regardless of where you are, is always a great time to study the gospel, enlightened by Spiritist. Today we're going to go over chapter 84 of the book Our Daily Bread. Before we begin, I'd like to thank Kardec Radio for opening up their platform, or should I say there are several platforms, for us to have conversations just like this one. Before we begin, let's say our initial prayer. Thank you, Lord, for the opportunity for us to get together, even though we're not present physically or at the same time. But it's always good for us to exchange ideas. May your peace be always with us. Open our minds, especially help us understand the points of view of our brothers and sisters. Let's avoid conflict and try to resolve all of our situations in harmony, in peace, and maintaining our connection and in tuned with our spiritual friends. So be it. So today we're going to be going over chapter 84, and it's called Holy Hands, Raising Holy Hands. And it's based on Timothy chapter 2, verse 8. So the passage goes like this. I want men everywhere to lift up holy hands in prayer without anger or disputing. So we see here the message that Paul sent to Timothy, that indicating that everywhere he wanted to see men, meaning actually men and women, right? This is a generic term that was a generic term that means it's irrespective of gender. Lift up holy hands in prayer. So basically, be connected without anger or disputing. So again, be connected with God, but leaving behind any kinds of disputes, any kinds of misunderstandings. Emmanuel explains as the following. In this part of the first epistle of Paul to Timothy, we receive a precious suggestion for service. So it's interesting that Emmanuel calls this a suggestion for service. So it is a suggestion for action. Some students only desire to see an exhortation of praises in the text. Not with this understanding, the converted one from Damascus clarifies that we should raise holy hands in every place without anger or disputes. So what Emmanuel explains to us here is that instead of just being focused, because we're when we initially read this passage, we might think, hey, Paul is just referring to just being praying, raising our hands in prayer. But Emmanuel clarifies here that actually it's not just in prayer, but it's in service anywhere we go, and that we avoid anger or disputes, so that we avoid any kind of antagonisms that we might have with our brothers and sisters. Paul, in this instance, was not referring to placing of the hands that the individual prefers to do some religious circles, where, due to respectful artificiality of the situation, irritability or open disputes are not justifiable. The Apostle mentions the honest edification of the individual that collaborates with divine providence and fulfills his daily work, which is perceived in the most hidden regions of the world. So again, Paul is not just referring to placing hands in prayer and having that attitude, which might be ritualistic, and anyway, ritualistic, as he refers here, being artificial with artificiality. So artificial meaning not true, but still having that kind of this irritability and open disputes that are not justified, of course, in any kind of religious setting. However, he is actually talking about the honest edification of the individual that collaborates with divine providence. So it's not just when we're in praying, but when we are in any activity to do good. And also as we fulfill our daily work, also as we fulfill our daily obligations, in any place. So not just in a temple, in a church, in a Spiritist center, in everything we do. Reading the suggestions, it is reasonable to recall that the individual, in his personal effort, invariably utilizes his hands in daily work. So Again, we see here as using hands in daily work. So now we see what Paul was referring to, and as Emmanuel explains, that again is not just using our hands, put them together in prayer, but especially in our daily activities. We spend so much time of our lives in our professional activities, so much time of our lives performing, even trying to serve others, and yeah, at home also doing different chores. So again, we are always active. So again, what Paul is reminding us is that we should not have this attitude of peace and harmony and love just in the spirit in a temple or in a spiritual center or in a place of worship, but that we should utilize that in our daily activities as well. Here are some examples here that Emmanuel provides us. If he is an administrator, he directs the paths. If he participates in the intellectual work, he uses the pen. If he works in the field, he will drive the agricultural equipment. Paul adds that those hands should be sanctified. So we see here the reference, right? The need for us to whatever we do, and again using the allegory of the hand. So whatever activity that we have, we should sanctify it. We should make sure that we're doing it um, in a in a peaceful in staying connected with God. So whether you're a administrator or whether you are participating in some kind of intellectual activity, or even if you're working in the field, doing physical work, doing physical labor. So whatever you're doing, so our hands should be sanctified. We should do whatever we should do whatever we do. We should show our spirituality. What's the point in us to be studying and trying to learn about the teachings of the gospel, trying to assimilate the teachings from the spirits, if in our daily activities, our actions, our attitude does not translate that knowledge, that enlightenment that we have received? Emmanuel continues, indicating that from that it can be concluded that many people move their arms in their earthly task. However, it must be stressed the convenience of being aware of the intent and content of the action realized. So again, all of us, we have our different activities here on earth, but we should keep in mind, we should be cognizant of we should be cognizant of the intent and content. So the intent. So what is it that is driving us in whatever activity that we perform? Again, it could be in a religious setting, but could be also in our daily activities, in our professional activities, at home, with our friends, and on the street, in at the bus, or as we're driving in traffic. So regardless, we should be expressing this spirituality, or at least a level of spiritual knowledge that we already have, having the proper attitude, and again, in any circumstance that we might be in. And again, that also applies to those moments of anguish, of those moments of challenge, of those moments that are difficult. So again, as we are working to overcome any kind of trials and tribulations that we might go through here on earth, it is important for us also to sanctify our hands, to stay connected to God, as even as we go through the necessary activities to overcome those situations. Emmanuel finalizes indicating that if you wish to apply this reasoning to yourself, pay attention before anything else if your determination is free of destructive anger or without useless demands. So again, in everything we do, is whether we're praying and whether we are with our family, whether we are with friends in the streets, stuck in traffic, at work, and in any activity that we have here on earth. So it's important for us to have this reason to apply, to have this conscience, and pay attention to our attitude. Pay attention to see if we're putting in love in everything we do, if we are being constructive in everything we do, and if we are avoiding those inferior feelings that only destroy. And again, without useless demands as well. Avoiding having useless demands from life, having being dissatisfied with everything that God provides to us, everything that we have, everything that is provided to us here on earth, it is a loan that God has given us for us to progress. After we leave earth, then the only thing we're going to take up with us is going to be our knowledge, our experience, and the love that we share with one another, and of course, our actions as well. So think about that, and we should understand that not only what we have, but also the circumstances we're in, they are also being provided to us for a reason. So instead of us being having these demands and wishing that things were totally different, it's important for us to recognize all the great things that all the great things that God has provided to us. Because again, regardless of our the situation with our families, with our friends, family, co-workers, whatever settings we are, um, regardless of if the current circumstances are either joyful or demanding, either pleasurable or challenging, whatever we have, it is the best for us. It is what is tailored for our spiritual development. That's our conversation for today. I hope you like it. And as always, if you like, make sure you click the little like button. And if you have not done so, make sure that you, depending on the social media that you're using, that you either follow or subscribe to Kardec Radio. At this time, let's again say our prayer. That's going to be our final prayer. And asking Jesus for strength to give us the determination that we need to act as Christians, to act as Spiritists in our lives, regardless of where you are, regardless of what we do, regardless of who we are with, and regardless when, regardless of which circumstances in our lives we're going through right now. Let's make sure that our actions reflect the knowledge that we have acquired, even though we're not perfect. We know enough to strive to do our best, even though we're not enlightened yet. But at least let's use the little bit of knowledge that we have to try to understand that whatever circumstances, whatever is happening to us, whatever we are going through right now, it is the best for us, and we should make the best of it so that we can continue our evolutionary path. So be it.